Jayo Radha Madhava Jayo Kunja Bihari. Jayo Gopi Jana Vallabha Jayo Girivaradhari. Jayo Gopi Jana Vallabha Jayo Girivaradhari. Jayo Yashodanandana Jayo Brajjanaranjana. Jayo Yashodanandana Jayo Brajjanaranjana. Jayo Yamunatiravanachari Jayo Kunja Bihari. Jayo Yamunatiravanachari Jayo Kunja Bihari. Jayo Radha Madhava Jayo Kunja Bihari. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jayo Radha Vrindavan Chandra Radha Vrindavan Chandra Radhe. Jayo Gaura Nitai Gaura Nitai Gaura Nitai Jayo Gaura Nitai. Jai Jagannath, Jai Jagannath, Jai Jagannath, Swami Jai Jagannath. Jai Jagannath, Jai Jagannath, Jai Baladeva, Jai Subhadra. Jayo Prabhupada, Jayo Prabhupada, Prabhupada, Jayo Prabhupada. Jayo Guru Deva, Jayo Guru Deva, Guru Deva, Jayo Guru Deva. Gaur Hari Bol, Gaur Hari Bol, Gaur Hari Bol, Nitya Gaur Hari Bol. Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nitya Gaur Hari Bol. श्री हरिनाम संकीर्तन यज्ञ की जय, श्रीला प्रभुपाद की जय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। नारायणं नमस्कृतं नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जयमुदीरयेत्। नष्टप्रायेषु भद्रेषु नित्यं भागवत सेवया भगवती उत्तम श्लोके भक्ति भवति नहिष्टकी। कृष्णाय वासुदेवाय देवकी नंदनाय च नंदगोप कुमाराय गोविंदाय नमो नमः। हरे कृष्ण। Hare Krishna. Reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 5, Chapter 18, entitled The Residents of Jambudvip Offer Prayers, verse 3. Oho vichitram bhagavad vicheshtitam ghinantam jano yam himishan na pashyati ध्यान साध्यरहि विकर्म सेवितुम निर्हित्या पुत्रम पितरम जीजीविषति अहो विचित्रम भगवद्विचेष्टितम् घिनन्तं जनो यं हि मिषान् न पश्यति ध्यान साध्यरहि विकर्म सेवितुम् निर्हित्या पुत्रं पितरं जीजीविषति अहो विचित्रं भगवद्विचेष्टितम् घिनन्तं जनो यं हि मिषान् न पश्यति ध्यान साध्यरहि विकर्म सेवितुम् निर्हित्या पुत्रं पितरं जीजीविषति अहो विचित्रं word to word meaning. Aho, alas. Vichitram, wonderful. Bhagavad Vichestitam, the pastimes of the Lord. Ghinantam, death. Jana, a person. Ayam, this. He, certainly. Mishan, all those seeing. Na pashyati, does not see. Dhyan, thinking about. Asat, material happiness. Yarhi, because. Vikarma, forbidden activities. Sevitum, to enjoy. Nirhitya, burning. Putram, sons. Pitram, the father. Jiji Vishati, desires a long life. Translation: Alas, how wonderful it is that foolish materialist does not heed the great danger of impending death. He knows that death will surely come, yet he is nevertheless callous and neglectful. If his father dies, he wants to enjoy his father's property. And if his sons die, he wants to enjoy his son's possessions as well. In either case, he heedlessly tries to enjoy material happiness with the acquired money. Purport: material happiness means to have good facilities for eating, sleeping, sexual intercourse, and defense. Within this world, the materialistic person lives only for these four principles of sense gratification, not caring for the impending danger of death. After his father's death, a son tries to inherit his money and use it for sense gratification. Similarly, one whose son dies tries to enjoy the possession of his son. Sometimes the father of a dead son even enjoys his son's widow. Materialistic persons behave in this way. Thus, Sukdev Goswami says, how wonderful are these pastimes of material happiness transacted by the will of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. In other words, materialistic person want to commit all kinds of sinful activities, but without the sanction of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, no one can do anything. Why does the Supreme Personality of Godhead permit sinful activities? The Supreme Lord does not want any living being to act sinfully, and he begs him through his good conscience to refrain from sin. But when someone insists upon acting sinfully, the Supreme Lord gives him the sanction to act at his own risk. Matta smriti jnana apahonahamcha. No one can do anything without the sanction of the Lord, but he is so kind that when the conditioned soul persists in doing something, the Lord permits the individual soul to act at his own risk. According to Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, sons always outlive their fathers in other planetary systems and other lands in this universe, especially on Swargaloka. However, on this planet, Earth, a son often dies before his father, and the materialistic father is pleased to enjoy the possessions of his son. Neither the father nor the son can see the reality that both of them are awaiting death. When death comes, however, all their plans for material enjoyment are finished. Om Agyantimirandhasya Jnananjanan Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamaiham Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Guru Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatham Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Sadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhan Vitamsha Namo Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Preshtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvisesa Shunyavadi Pashyata Deshatarine Namo Mahavadanyaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namine Gaur Tvishe Namaha He Krishna Karuna Sindho Dinabandho Jagatpate Esa Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Shiradhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्येव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद। हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। मुखं करोति वाचालं पंगुं लंघयति तद्कृपातमहं वन्दे। Hare Krishna. Yeah, so I'd like to take blessings of His Grace Prithu Prabhu. So he should be sitting here. Yugal Shamru told me that he will be giving class, but last minute he said that I have to. Hare Krishna. So in this purport, Srila Prabhupada, he condemns a materialistic civilization, materialistic people. So he says that how those who are materialist, they do not care about death and they act sinfully. So in the Sunday recent Bhagavatam class, His Grace Sarva Lakshman Prabhu was telling that how in modern society people are very confused because they are in tamogun and they are acting in a very sinful and in a very illogical manner. So that is why Srila Prabhupada wrote his Bhaktivedanta purports, which is an expression of compassion to the modern godless society. So today we will try to discuss about importance of Srila Prabhupada books and how Srila Prabhupada, since we have just concluded the book distribution marathon, so how much Srila Prabhupada, how much this service of book distribution was so dear to his heart. So Srila Prabhupada books, especially on the Bhaktivedanta purports, they are very special. Why? Because when we absorb ourselves in Bhaktivedanta purports, they give us the higher taste of spiritual life. Our mind, intellect, when we bathe ourselves in Bhaktivedanta purports, we develop so much of conviction and so much of determination to practice spiritual life. We see that Kali Yuga, this sage is surcharged with faithlessness. No one has faith to practice spiritual life. But the moment we read Srila Prabhupada books, our intelligence becomes sharpened. We develop faith. And a devotee who sincerely practices and practices consistently, then the result is that he gets two things. One is purity and second is faith. So this purity and faith, this is a result of consistent spiritual practice. And reading Srila Prabhupada books, when we read Srila Prabhupada books prayerfully, and then when we work hard to distribute Prabhupada books, we actually, by these two things, we develop a very intimate relation with Srila Prabhupada. So for Srila Prabhupada, printing and publishing of his books was a very, very intimate service to his spiritual master. Because we know that how Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, he had ordered Srila Prabhupada on the banks of Radha Kund, that whenever you get money, print books. So this service of printing and distributing books, this was like the heart of Srila Prabhupada. So during this last 1.5, 2 months of book distribution marathon, so I was reading this book called Our Family Business by His Grace Vashishka Prabhu. So I'm sure many of you must have read. So this book, as I was reading, so this book is an all-time classic. Like, means everyone must read this book. So if I have to say in plain summary, this book is like real diamond. And one will get so much of inspiration, for this service, for book distribution, and so much appreciation, for doing this. So I'll just try to share some points, from this book. So in this book, His Grace Vashishka Prabhu, he gives different perspectives for this service of book distribution. From the history of ISKCON, how book distribution started, then how the devotees who do this, how do they benefit in their personal spiritual life, and from an institutional perspective, from how the movement spreads, how the movement of ISKCON actually, based on BBT, how it has expanded far and wide. So all that details are given in very wonderfully. So we see that in our parampara, the books have a great importance. Even when Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, when he started Gaudiya Math and the emblem of Gaudiya Math, so there Bhaktisiddhanta Thakur had put the printing press in the heart. So printing press was at the heart of his Gaudiya Math mission. And when Srila Prabhupada started ISKCON, and when ISKCON was incorporated in July of 1966, so in the beginning, our movement had very little money. But Srila Prabhupada was always trying that we could have our own printing press. And in 1969, at that point of time, ISKCON had very little money, but Srila Prabhupada was pushing all his disciples that we should have a building somewhere in America which is only focused on printing operation. Then devotees who were staying in Boston, so they obliged and they took a building in an area called North Beacon Street. And that became the first publishing house of ISKCON, 1969. And when it was the grand opening of this building, where Prabhupada desired, first of all, Prabhupada carrying the instruction of his guru, he traveled all the way to US, then he did Kirtan in Tompkins Square Park. So slowly it was growing. So it was a very special moment for Srila Prabhupada, where we were having our own printing press, our own facility for doing publication. So when the opening of this building was there, and then Srila Prabhupada visited the building, so there was a room where there was a full printing press. And as soon as Srila Prabhupada entered the press room, he glorified his spiritual master. And he said, Jai Om Vishnupad Paramhans Parikracharya, Shri Srimad Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur ki Jai. And he said, my Guru Maharaj will be very pleased. And then he told the devotee who was in charge, he said that this printing press is my heart. So it must be properly cleaned and maintained, because this is the heart of your Guru. And slowly, as the priority was given for book distribution, so to purchase this building, devotees from all over America, they gave funds. Like Tamal Krishna Maharaj was in California, so he gave $5,000, from his preaching. So everyone understood that Srila Prabhupada wants to prioritize this particular service. So all over America, where a preaching was going on, everyone was sending funds so that we could have our own printing press and our own facility. And slowly, then book distribution started increasing. So previously only when we speak of Nagar Sankirtan or going out, only devotee used to distribute only the BTG magazines. But now Srila Prabhupada was telling that we should distribute my big books. And everyone was thinking, how is it possible? Because when they will distribute BTG, they will distribute for 25 cents, which people can easily afford. But to distribute big books, so devotees were finding very hard at how this is possible. But Srila Prabhupada was pushing everyone that this should be done, and gradually this actually began to happen. And then Prabhupada used to say that we should organize, and we should plan properly. And then Prabhupada used to give them ideas. He said that in America, There are a total of 300 big cities in America. And in every city, if we keep a person who can become our like vendor to distribute books in that particular city, and if we can have only 100 BTG magazines we can send to one city, so like this we can distribute 30,000 BTG magazines. So he will say that this, then Prabhupada will tell to his disciples that this is very much practical. We have to just organize and tax our brains. And like this, Prabhupada from front, he was pushing everyone, and then gradually book distribution began to increase, and it created a sense of mission in the movement. And all the communities of ISKCON, they become energized. So Rameshwar Prabhu, he was the head of the book distribution department, and he along with other devotees, so they were working very hard. Yeah, so Prabhupada was asking basically three things. That first of all, you should translate my books, means in other languages, then print, and then distribute. So this was the slogan. So devotees knew that if we want to make Prabhupada happy, we have to actually focus on this service. And now because everyone was focusing, so this service, as it was becoming better organized, the number of books going out began to increase gradually. And as number of books were growing, the number of devotees joining temples and ashrams and communities, they also began to grow. And so like this, Krishna consciousness was gradually growing. So in this book, Vasishka Prabhu says that in 1971-72, this book distribution explosion started happening, where devotees were becoming spiritually intoxicated with this service. So he speaks about one devotee who, when he came to Krishna consciousness, he spontaneously became very much attracted to distribute Srila Prabhupada books. So his legal name was Tom Beaudry. So there was a God Purnima festival which happened in Berkeley, California. Like some of you must have seen, there was a very big deity of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, which is brought out in public procession. And full day kirtan was going on, morning till evening. So this young boy, Tom, full day he was chanting with devotees, and then someone gave him Srila Prabhupada's Bhagavad Gita, and he was reading that Bhagavad Gita, and shortly he joined the temple. He shaved his head and he joined, and in a very short time, he became a book distribution leader. And Prabhupada in June 1972 gave him Diksha, and his name became Tirupurari Das. So Prabhupada used to call him later that he's incarnation of book distribution. So in a very short time he came and he became a leader. So it is said that when he was in the temple, so he would, after morning program, he would go out in the morning and he would come back with empty boxes. And once there were new volumes of Srimad Bhagavatam which were printed by BBT. So he took all those he took all the copies. So Rameshwar Prabhu, so he was hiding those Bhagavatam volumes because he said if devotees see, then they will begin to read so much that they will not go out. But when Tirupurari Maharaj, when he saw, so he took 30 copies of this newly printed Srimad Bhagavatam, and with that he went to LA airport. And in one day he distributed all of them. And when he would give someone this Bhagavatam, he would say that this book is a deity. So do not take this book to bathroom. So that much faith he had. And after he came back, after distributing this 30 copies of newly printed Srimad Bhagavatam, so after he came back, he had his own personal copy and he did Aarti of that Srimad Bhagavatam. So that was the devotees in early days, they had, this was the spirit. So this mood, that how devotees, they become spiritually like electrified when they work hard to distribute Srila Prabhupada books. So this is like, we're sharing about early days of ISKCON, but also, if we see in the current times, like in the contemporary times, that currently also it is very much possible, that we can connect to the mercy of Srila Prabhupada, mercy of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and all these early devotees who were working hard by just working hard for book distribution. And this service, this service of book distribution, it is, so as Vasishka Prabhu says in the book, it is a heavyweight service. Like it says, like for example, to lift heavy cartons, to go out and put up book tables. So it is not very comfortable to mind and senses. But actually when we work hard within this service, when we go out, work hard, and after working hard, when we come back and when we stand before Srila Prabhupada's deity, we actually feel the love of a grandfather. We can actually feel in our heart, that how Srila Prabhupada is so happy, because when we do this service of book distribution, we are actually assisting Srila Prabhupada in service to his spiritual master, because that is service to his Guru Maharaj. So actually, so recently 1.5 months, so our group also, so we have been trying to distribute Srila Prabhupada books. So actually, so in this recent 1.5 months, my appreciation for this service has increased tremendously. Especially when we go out. So this year, we had made our base on FC Road. It's a very posh area of Pune. So we made that as our base, and we used to put 2 book tables, and our whole group used to do on all weekends of marathon, and we used to go from like 5 to 10 p.m. evening, because all the crowd used to come after 5 p.m. So in this book, Vasishka Prabhu shares one incident from his own life. He was saying that when we meet people and when we tell them about the benefits of the spiritual books, how they will benefit them. So we can be wherever we are in the world, but we can make a very intimate connection with our whole parampara. So he was giving one example. He said that Rupa Goswami, when he was on this planet, so he was in Vrindavan and he was in a place called Tera Kadamba, and he used to write books. So one of the books which Rupa Goswami wrote is Nectar of Instruction. So once Vasishka Prabhu, he was at airport, and there was a young boy who was about to catch a flight. So he met him and he told about the benefits of taking this book. So he took this book and gave a donation of $10 and went ahead. And Vasishka Prabhu shares that right at that airport, right at that American airport, he was feeling a very intimate connection with Rupa Goswami, who is sitting and writing books in Tera Kadamba. So I think this is the potency of book distribution. That wherever we are, in the world, we can be at airport, we can be outside and in the market, and there can be so much Maya everywhere, but just by telling people about the importance of these books and giving and trying our best, we can develop the strong connection. So this time when, we used to do, so this whole area of FC Road, it was like very modern area, and a lot of college youth. So we actually felt that we were like distributing books in Europe. Like means all youngsters coming and then like trying to talk them, convince them. So it was a very fulfilling service. So our group members, when we were sharing with each other, they were actually telling that everyone felt one could, or like just as Vasishka Prabhu was sharing that he felt a very strong connection, which Rupa Goswami, devotees were sharing that they were feeling very strong connection. So one devotee was sharing that this photograph of Srila Prabhupada, where he's sitting in Radha Damodar temple. So that photograph, one felt a very deep sense of spiritual connection with this photograph, just by going out, means every day and talking to people. So Another thing is that, so one thing is that, so when we would actually go in 2 cars, because there were like almost 8-10 of us. So we'll put all cartons, everything, leave. And after the whole day of service, we'll be coming back to our homes by night, like 11:30. And when we will be coming back, in the car, like all devotees will be sharing their experiences. And everyone will be like spiritually intoxicated. And everyone was saying, this devotee, like this person came to me and I told him this, so he bought this book. This person told this. So when we were coming back, we used to feel that we are coming back in some Pushpak Viman, like in a bliss, bliss journey. And everyone, like first time when we went, the first weekend, that time I had to push everyone that we should go, we should try. But then when everyone got that taste, everyone used to follow me up, like when we are going this time, what time we have to leave. So point is that it's a service, like once you get, once you get that bliss of the service, then you even forget like eating and taking rest. Like you just become surcharged with that service. And so I remember, like, there were a lot of wonderful experiences and moments. So once, so towards the end of December, when this English books had finished in Jeevdaya, so we were taking the Deluxe book. And so Deluxe cost 300 rupees. So it's difficult for people to buy Deluxe books. So I remember, so one couple was going, so I stopped that couple and I was telling benefits of Gita, but I was showing him Marathi book, like Marathi Gita. And then when he got convinced, he said that he wants in English. So I then showed him the Deluxe copy and then he asked the price. So his face became little down because he was thinking this book will be like 150 or something. And then I was like trying to tell him that, this book if you purchase, this will be a lifelong investment. That if you come to FC Road, you spend so much money just to eat pizza and burger. But if you spend 300 rupees right now, this will be lifelong investment for you. But as I was telling him, his wife was pulling him that we should go now. And then I told, when I saw that his wife was like trying to pull him, so I saw that both of you can read together. And this way you can develop very nice spiritual like bonding. And somehow this point like made her smile. And the girl who was like pulling her, then she only told, okay, we can take this book. And when he paid 300 and he took that Deluxe Gita, I felt like some Deluxe happiness, in my heart. So like this, like, small things, when you talk to people and they say, no, but then you like try your best to convince, so the happiness which you feel in your heart, then all this like material happiness becomes very tuch, it becomes very small and you become very much enlivened. So once Sarva Lakshan Prabhu, like, in some previous year, while speaking about book distribution, he was telling that actually when we distribute books outside and then when we come back to temple, when we come back to devotee community, our appreciation for devotees becomes much more. We see that everyone with whom we are staying, they're all Golokvasis. Because outside we see, and we become much more focused, much more pure in our sadhana. So Ali, this is a very nice combination that, to have good sadhana and to go out. And this is like as Vashishko Prabhu say, this is like super sadhana. Very fast way to accelerate, to make spiritual advancement. And gradually, as we used to go, then all the devotees of our group, we began in the beginning, like all the Prabhujis used to come, and then they were becoming so much joyful that they will go in their homes and they will share with their wives that what a bliss, amazing, this, So then the wives also started to come in and they also began to join. And when they saw, that everyone was working so hard and 5 to 10, and we did not have dinner. So we used to carry only one vada pav from Govinda, one vada pav for each person. So then, like Matajis, they also felt that we should have proper prasad, and then everyone took turns to prepare full meals. So we used to carry pattals and big packets of prasadam, and at 8 p.m. we'll take a break of 20 minutes, and everyone will have a big feast. And as we were sitting in FC Road and with our pattals, and one devotee is serving pulao, one is serving some sweet, one is serving gajar halwa, then everyone else in the FC Road will see towards us, like what is this group? And they are so happy. And devotees were sharing, that they felt that they are not in this world. They are in spiritual world. Everyone together, and speaking about Prabhupada books, and then taking prasadam together. So people, they used to just look towards us, that who are these people, So the point is, and so after this whole book distribution service, we, whatever we could do. So all devotees in our group, they share that our group in last 1.5 to 2 months, the way it has bonded together as a family, the way it has made that very deep bonding with each other is very, very special. We all know each other for last 4 or 5 years, but in this last 2 months, because everyone was together and everyone was trying to, and our appreciation for each other becomes much more. When we see someone standing at one place for 4 hours, talking to everyone, then our appreciation for each other becomes much more. And actually in this book, Vashishka Prabhu says that how this service of book distribution, it has a potency to bind the ISKCON communities very closely on a spiritual platform. Especially when there are grahasthas, like temple brahmacharis are still always together, but grahasthas, they are in their own world, like sometimes, means everyone is in their own apartment. But actually when we go out together, then that mood of Srila Prabhupada's family come. Like one thing is to say theoretically, and one thing is Gyan and Vigyan. So to actually have that experience, and I have been few times to ISKCON Silicon Valley, like as a part of my office work. So there, the community which they have, like under Vashishka Prabhu's leadership, I have seen that since book distribution is the focus in that community, I see that the devotees, they have such loving spiritual relationships. They are so close to each other, that I remember once one devotee, he was about to get married. So he was not yet married. It was like another 1 and 2 months. So his parents came, from India. So his parents were staying with some other devotee, like with some grahastha for 2 months. So I was saying that to have this kind of relationship, where people consider each other, you could go to anyone's house, and have that intimacy. So I was saying that because everyone, does that service together. So in the end, so the point, just to summarize, that when we try to do this service, we are trying to assist Srila Prabhupada in his service to his spiritual master, and because of which, lot of blessings come in our life. Lot of blessings, a lot of gratitude comes in our life. And this time, under the dynamic leadership of His Grace Sarva Lakshan Prabhu, so every year, Pune temple takes a target of 1 more lakh. We were doing 2 lakh, then 3 lakh, then 4 lakh. Then people said you just speak of 1 lakh, it is a very small thing, but somehow we are able to do also. So this year, yesterday when I met Amya Madhusudan Prabhu, so he said that, this year we did, in book distribution, we did 4.2 lakhs. And when we add Bhadra and everything, it becomes like 5.5 lakhs. And we fulfilled our target of 5 lakh once again. So it's like some special mercy of Parampara in our community, where everyone works so hard. So very fortunate to be in this community where there are so many stalwarts and so much of inspiration in the hearts of devotees for distributing Srila Prabhupada books. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.
Thank you very much, Prabhu, for this wonderful class. It was very nectarine, pure nectar. I would like to contribute two things. I restrict myself to two things, put it like that, when it comes to book distribution. And Prabhupada was living in Radha Damodar temple before he came to the West. He was very poor, and but still he was to distribute his Back to God magazine. So one time Prabhupada was very sick. It was in the middle of winter, he had high fever. And he was lying on a straw mat like this type, thin type. And on the floor of Radha Damodar temple, and his godbrothers came too and said, "You have to get a bed, otherwise you die." And Prabhupada said, "I want to use every farthing for book distribution." They can see the dedication Prabhupada had, said, not comfort, not interest, even if he would die, every penny should be used for book distribution. There was his mood that he inherited from Bhaktisiddhanta. Now, talking about Bhaktisiddhanta, you brought up this point that he had the printing press in the temple. It was if you go to Yoga Pit, if you go to the end of the Kirtan hall, like there's a huge window. And that's where the printing press was. So that the deities could see the books being printed. This is one thing, to please the devotees, the deities. And the other thing is to keep the devotees being very careful. They're standing in front of the deities and serving Krishna in this book distribution. That was Bhaktisiddhanta's idea. When he left, they decided that, well, maybe we should do something else. We should use that room for preaching. It's a good idea, nothing wrong with preaching, but not at the expense of Bhaktisiddhanta's idea. So they took the preaching press into the basement. And after half a year, the printing had stopped. It was the end of the book distribution inside the Gaudiya Math at that time. You see, this is the point, that we think we know better than Guru Maharaj. That's the thing. Bhaktisiddhanta put it there, right in the view of the deity, right, infused the devotees to print these books in front of the deities, and they had in the basement, it would last only half a year, the enthusiasm, and then book distribution dwindled to nothing. So whenever there's book distribution, temples are thriving. That's what Prabhupada, my personal experience also, is wherever there's, like our temple in Germany, the one temple that does really good and attracts a lot of young devotees. Even now in COVID, they have a Bhakta program. It's packed at any time. New devotees, book distribution. It's this magic, Prabhupada's magic manifested. Because he said, and now I can't resist, I will tell you another story. The last story. And Prabhupada told us that I'm actually in these books, he said. And so the best thing I've ever heard a devotee illustrating that point was Chandramoli Maharaj. And he reads Prabhupada's books every day religiously, for 3-4 hours, loud. So one time, he was reading, and I heard this before, so I went around. There's three Prabhupada disciples who know, that have a very intimate relationship to Prabhupada by reading his books loud. So this was the best example. Keshav Bharati was there, and another devotee who lives in San Diego, Prabhupada disciple. And so I asked him, is that true that Prabhupada came to you? He said, yes. He said, I was just reading his books, and then in the evening, the whole atmosphere changed. I was kind of amazed, everything changed. And then I saw that I stopped reading and looked around, and then he heard Prabhupada's voice continuing, where he just had stopped reading for 10 minutes. It was Prabhupada. He said it was unreal. It was just listening to a tape recorder, And then the voice faded away, and that was the end of the experience. You see, it's such a profound truth that he actually experienced Prabhupada This is now 30 years after Prabhupada departed. And there are many examples like that. Prabhupada is in his books, we hear Prabhupada's books, we distribute Prabhupada's books. That's the most dear. You have this poster here, Prabhupada, if you really want to please me, to the German Sankirtan devotees. I heard this letter that came from London. We were so happy to hear that Prabhupada was so pleased with our book distribution, because we did a lot of books at that time. So I can only encourage everybody to take this up, this book distribution, particularly when you're young. I mean, you can hardly get out of bed sometimes. Difficult, 75 years. But we should preach that. We should preach that. We should ignite this spark in people's heart that if you want to really please Prabhupada, just distribute his books. If you please Prabhupada, don't worry about your spiritual life. You're taken care of. Even if you're not perfect, you should always remember that Prabhupada, he has a back door, the key to the back door in the spiritual world. If he wants somebody to go back to Godhead, this person will go back to Godhead. There's no doubt about it. Prabhupada is so dear to Krishna that he has this power, this role to lead as many people towards Krishna if they follow his instructions. So thank you very much for your lecture. It was pure nectar. It's exactly what I needed to hear. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
His Grace Pithu Prabhu ki jai.
That's the real medicine. You can hear about it, you have to do it. Hearing means doing.